Did you know a revolution is taking place in how to help those challenged by developmental and learning disabilities and other forms of brain-based dysfunction? This revolution is stemming from what we are learning about neuroplasticity. Listen to what Dr. Danny Siegel had to say about this recently. Dr. Siegel is Clinical Professor of Psychiatry at the University of Southern California School of Medicine.
We're at a moment now of taking one of the most revolutionary findings from science, in particular from neuroscience, which is the study of neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the way we can study how the connections in the brain, the literal physical synaptic connections within the substance of the brain's architecture, how those connections continually change across the lifespan. And experience drives those changes by activating the firing of neurons, and then as neurons fire, they can rewire their connections to one another. That's the basic finding from neuroplasticity, and what we're now learning is that the brain doesn't stop growing after childhood or adolescence. It continues to grow throughout the entire lifespan.
Greetings and welcome. My name is Jerry Douglas and I'm the founder and director of a New Zealand company called Braintime Limited. Braintime has the specific focus of bringing to New Zealand an amazing patented training system called Interactive Metronome. The good news is that Interactive Metronome is now available throughout New Zealand wherever a computer can be connected to the internet. To appreciate the power of Interactive Metronome and its breadth of application, we're going to get into some technical detail. We'll lighten up at various points by hearing some personal stories from people who have used Interactive Metronome for a variety of different applications. Before we go any further, let's recall the essence of what Dr. Siegel said. Neuroplastic brain changes are driven by experience. Interactive Metronome provides a very specific experience for trainees. The Interactive Metronome experience incorporates 5 elements which, when combined, give optimal opportunity for functional neuroplastic change. These are intense conscious focus, instantaneous performance feedback, an increasingly difficult challenge, extended repetition, and frequent practice exposure. This experience creates specific neuroplastic brain changes, including strengthening neural network connectivity, initiating neural reuse and additional deployment, and recalibrating temporal processing. So let's get down to a deeper layer of understanding Interactive Metronome by learning more about these 3 terms. We'll start with strengthening neural network connectivity. You probably know that the brain is made up of various parts. If there's something physically or anatomically wrong with a part of the brain, you may well be able to see that with a CAT scan or an ordinary MRI scan. Their increasing use has added to a popular assumption that if there's anything wrong with the brain, we'll be able to see it with an MRI scan. That's actually a misleading assumption. In terms of brain tissue, 2 important components of the brain are what we call grey matter and white matter, and both can be identified with an ordinary MRI. But the way this white matter connects together into neural circuits that run throughout the brain is what doesn't show up on a CAT scan or an ordinary MRI. Right now, we've earned a break from hearing detail. Here's a story about Interactive Metronome helping with reading and math in a school-wide application setting.
News brought you the story of a unique training program at Topeka Lutheran.
The 3-week program aims to improve students' grades by helping them develop their focusing skills. 27 News reporter Kia Carter has the results.
And these are humongous gains.
These Topeka Lutheran parents are getting news any parent would want to hear, news of how their children have significantly improved in school.
You get massive gains. It's a hard program, really, but the children don't really know that.
They don't know it's intense because it looks like this. The Interactive Metronome program helps the children develop focus by pushing them to keep a beat for as much as 20 minutes at a time. After just 3 weeks with an IM instructor, testing before and after shows the students gained 1 to 2 grade levels on average, some 3 grade levels in reading and math.
Before IM, we had a lot of issues with anxiety towards reading, refusal to read, crying when she had to read. Post-IM now, we send her to bed and she reads before bed on her own.
She likes to read, and before she didn't. On her AR test, which is a reading test, she was getting 40, 50, 60, 70%. And on the same series of books since AR, she's been getting 90s.
The program was beneficial for them, and we're seeing some of the benefits in our classroom with kids who are on task and not as easily distracted.
And it's also been more self-confident, and other people have noticed that. Not nearly as shy. It seems kind of like poo-poo, but it seems to work.
But it doesn't just improve grades, it can improve language skills and coordination.
It also has helped several of the students who have been involved in it in their extracurricular sports. So a couple of them have mentioned how they were better able to do some of the things because they had less distraction, less noise going on in their minds.
In volleyball, before she would just kind of stand there and not be aggressive for the ball. And afterwards, it's just like she's going all over the court after the ball. So I'm pretty excited about it.
That's why these parents are recommending the school have the course offered regularly. Kia Carter, 27 News.
We'll now return to learning more about these all-important neural networks that make up the white matter in the brain. The way to get a picture of these neural network connections is to pick up on the distribution of water in the brain. Water isn't just randomly or evenly distributed in the brain. It accumulates more in the long axons and dendrites of the neuron cells that make up the neural networks in the brain. Brain imaging technology enables us to see water distribution in the brain. Programmed for a special kind of image called a DTI, an MRI scanner uses a series of slices to gather information on the pattern of water distribution, and this reveals the pattern of neural networks within the brain. More and more of the complexity of neural network distribution within the brain can be added to our picture. Here, we're looking from the back of the brain forward. You can see a gap between the left and the right hemisphere, and you can get some idea of the massive connections between the two sides of the brain at the bottom of the gap. To help us make a little bit more sense of this massive connections, we'll consult a recent publication from Oxford University Press. 2012 saw the publication of the Atlas of Human Brain Connections. On page 38 of the atlas, there's a tractography reconstruction of the association, commissural, and projection pathways of the brain's neural connections. The association pathways begin and end within each separate brain hemisphere. That's the left and right sides of the brain. In these pictures, they've been coloured green. The commissural pathways have been coloured red. These neural connections run between the left and the right hemispheres, allowing the hemispheres to work together. The blue projection neural pathways allow brain function to be connected together vertically. So, What all this comes down to is, if we want to know how well the brain is working, the operating status of these connecting neural circuits is a fundamental consideration. It's hardly surprising then that a marked feature of a growing number of brain-based conditions and disabilities is that many of their symptoms are strongly linked to the inefficient performance of one or more of these neural networks. Now we can appreciate an important feature of interactive metronome. Interactive metronome training strengthens neural connectivity within and between important parts of the brain. It's that time again. Let's give the neuroscience another break and hear about how Aaron found interactive metronome helped when he failed to respond to medication for ADHD.
Doctors diagnose thousands of children a year with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. And with that comes prescriptions, diet changes, and vitamins. But for some families, that doesn't work. Kansas First News reporter Lauren Seabrook talked to a local family who found a life-changing alternative.
When Aaron Davis hears the beat, his brain fires a reaction to his hands or his feet. When his parents, Richard and Brenda, see the mental to physical connection, they remember at one time this simple task was impossible.
We get emotional.
Yeah, I mean, just, it's incredible, the difference.
Who do you like to play with at school?
This video shows Aaron just 1 year ago.
I don't know. You don't know?
He struggled in school, lacked social interaction, and seemed to be in a world of his own.
We were told he had a wheat allergy and he had a gluten allergy, and to take all of that out of his diet, and we tried that for a month and there was no improvement. And then we were told, the natural food market has these wonderful vitamins that will help, and we tried that and nothing worked.
Doctors then told Richard and Brenda their son had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. The solution, medication.
He was still struggling in school. He was still behind.
Nothing made Aaron better. And just when the family had given up all hope, a friend suggested Interactive Metronome, a program that retrains the brain.
The first day he went through IM, that night we already saw a difference.
The benefits continued after every visit.
His reading went from 28% in January to 73% in March.
Within months, Richard and Brenda's dreams for their little boy started to change.
Probably wouldn't go to college. He probably really wouldn't be able to hold down a decent job. He'd probably have to stay with us for the rest of his life. And now we're both thinking, okay, we need to start saving for college.
Lori Schmidt knows exactly how the Davis family feels. Her son faced similar issues throughout adolescence, and that drove her to help others through IM.
When you were afraid of your child being an adult child living at home, and you see them succeeding, it's really you can't describe it.
The feelings shared by both families went from one extreme to another. But for Aaron, the feelings are a first.
He's been happy before. This is the first time since we started him he's ever felt happy. It really is. He feels stuff now.
He also now plays kickball, interacts with friends, and even leads the other students in his group at school.
You pray for your child, and you want him to be successful, and this is the program. This really helped.
Lauren Seabrook, Kansas First News.
Doctors say the Interactive Metronome program uses a repetitive exercise that changes or remaps neurons in a certain part of the brain, resulting in a change in behavior.
Pretty amazing story.
And Lauren says that when she went there, he was very shy, but started opening up. She tried the Interactive Metronome program, and he was, by the end, telling her that she wasn't fast enough for it. So, great story.
We'll now introduce the next concept to do with neural communication that's important for understanding interactive metronome. Neural reuse, including neural additional deployment. Motor actions and processing the associated instant performance feedback is the central mechanism of interactive metronome. It's easy to see that the white matter neural connections involved would become more efficient at firing with repeated practice. That's what's meant by neurons that fire together, wire together. A fundamental claim about IM is that this generalizes into improved performance across a range of other behaviors that involve the same parts of the brain, such as paying attention better in the classroom setting or improved reading fluency. But wouldn't this imply that neural circuits can be used for more than one purpose? Well, the answer is yes, it would. So how can this possibly be? In 2010, Assistant Professor Michael Anderson wrote a paper published in the peer-reviewed Behavioural and Brain Sciences journal titled Neural Reuse, a Fundamental Organisational Principle of the Brain. On page 258, we read, "These data appear to support the following claims. 1. Regions of the brain, even fairly small regions, are typically reused in multiple domains. 2. If a region is involved in perception tasks, action tasks, or both, it's more likely to be reused than if it is not involved in such tasks. 3. Regions not involved in such tasks are nevertheless more likely than not to be reused in multiple domains." So, it turns out there is evidence that the brain can assign more than one function to one particular neural circuit. And that's what we mean by neural additional deployment. Let's focus in a little on an important part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, immediately behind your forehead. The prefrontal cortex is so central to good brain function that it's often called the brain's conductor. When neural circuits connected to it, especially those relaying sense information, are weakened or disrupted, then the conductor doesn't do its job of coordinating many areas of brain function. When this happens, we're predisposed to a cacophony rather than a harmonious symphony. The net result is too much overactivity and underactivity in many parts of the brain. This can include varying degrees of our fight, flight, freeze reaction being inappropriately stimulated. Many brain-based disabilities feature dysregulation related to the underengagement of the prefrontal cortex. Examples are ADHD, anxiety, hypervigilance, often associated with PTSD, an impulsive aggressive response, and mood fluctuation. If you're a special needs educator or an RTLB, take a moment to consider how many of the behavioural problem children you see fit one or more of the above descriptors. It's no coincidence that neural circuits connected to the prefrontal cortex are stimulated over and over again when training with Interactive Metronome. We'll now take a look at the third component that helps us understand something of how Interactive Metronome works and why it has a beneficial impact on so many brain-based conditions and disabilities. Temporal processing is all about how the brain deals with lineal time. Your brain is constantly facing the challenge of dealing with time. It sends out data such as speech or timing to kick a ball through neural circuits of vastly different lengths. In addition to the length factor, some neural circuits are in better condition, so they're faster at processing data. Similarly, your brain only knows about the outside world through incoming sense data continually being processed for different lengths of time. Processing speed varies between the senses. For example, once sound stimulates auditory neurons in the ear, it will register in our conscious awareness faster than an image captured on the retina in our eyes. This difference in processing speed happens even for data within a sense. For example, with our sense of sight, different colours are picked up at the end point of different neural circuits in the eye. And these circuits can vary in length to the point where it means some colours are ready to pass information to conscious awareness before others. Temporal processing, then, refers to how quickly your brain handles the decision about which bits of data will be treated as 1. Simultaneous in your outer reality, and hence chunked together as one percept, or 2. In a sequential order in your outer reality, and 3. In what particular sequential order. An obvious way to upset neural connectivity and temporal processing is a bang on the head, or concussion. However, very often we don't know what causes inadequate or uneven development of neural network communication or temporal processing. We may not even know the cause of a deterioration in these systems from a previous point of normal functioning. It could be a recreational drug, or the wrong medication, or a virus, or a large emotional upset, pressure in the skull on the brain, or a diet imbalance, eating something that's toxic to your body, protracted sleep deprivation, an epigenetic influence, or a genetic predisposition. What we do know is that numerous brain-based conditions and disabilities, including ADD, ADHD, auditory processing disorder, autism spectrum disorder, including Asperger's, bipolar disorder, cerebral palsy, depression, dyslexia, dyspraxia, impulsive aggressive response, learning to use a prosthesis after limb amputation, some forms of migraine headache, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's symptoms, poor coordination, poor handwriting, post-concussion syndrome or mild TBI, post-traumatic stress disorder, risk of falling injury through poor balance and gait, some hallmark symptoms of schizophrenia, sensory integration disorder, and stroke recovery, all share a major common feature: various patterns of disrupted neural connections and/or temporal processing inefficiency. Stuck patterns of disrupted neural connections and/or inefficient temporal processing may not be the original cause of the disability or the only factor sustaining the symptoms, but the disability symptoms will persist until both of these closely related aspects of brain function either autocorrect or are assisted to correct. Improvement in such basic fundamental brain functions is the key to understanding why published research and case studies show Interactive Metronome has a growing track record of a positive remedial impact across a wide range of conditions and disabilities, including the majority of those we've already mentioned. Before we look in a bit more detail at what's involved in IM training, let's hear about how Interactive Metronome helped 9-year-old Sam improve with reading and math.
Well, Alan, for centuries, musicians have used a metronome to help them keep time. But now the same concept is being used to help children with ADD learn better. It's called Interactive Metronome Therapy, and it offers surprising benefits to Parkinson's and stroke patients as well. It can help musicians keep the beat, and athletes such as football players for Notre Dame have used it to improve their timing and coordination.
Touchdown, Notre Dame!
But 9-year-old Sam Reichner is using a metronome for a much different purpose. Sam has dyslexia and a difficulty processing different sounds, so he's using the interactive metronome to help him focus. It basically retrains his brain by getting him to pay attention to certain sounds and block out other noises. And after 5 weeks of sessions here at the Lighthouse Project in San Jose, Sam has seen a huge improvement.
Get faster at reading and doing math and listening. Putty, soon.
Reading is no longer such a struggle, and he's now much faster at doing math problems. The changes add up to a happier student.
His self-confidence has just made a huge leap, a huge leap. Now that he feels like a successful learner, he is able to learn better.
The strides Sam has made improving his focus and coordination are also made by other kids, those with autism and attention deficit disorder, and even adults with debilitating diseases.
They also are working with Parkinson's patients and stroke patients and some brain injury patients with this program.
Even though Sam can't tell you exactly how this clapping and stomping is helping him, the third grader can tell you it has given him a new outlook on his schoolwork.
It's easier and it's fun.
Well, interactive metronome training can also be used to help all students improve their math, reading, and memory skills.
So what does interactive metronome training actually look like? Interactive metronome can be used in two ways. The first is as an assessment tool. The trainee wears a glove with a palm sensor or uses a foot sensor. The trainee hears a steady rhythmic beat through the headphones and attempts to synchronize an exercise such as clapping or tapping their foot to the beat. The IM objectively measures the trainee's ability to stay on the beat. The measure is given in milliseconds or thousandths of a second, and a score is provided. The results are an indication of their motor planning and sequencing ability, and gives a working window into their neural network responsiveness and temporal processing. The second way IM is used is with providing the individually designed treatment program based on this initial assessment. The trainee is given audio feedback with each beat about their performance through guide sounds in the left or the right ear that lets them know if they are hitting very early or early before the IM beat, or very late or late after the IM beat. The sound and the light feedback is instant and allows the trainee to make immediate changes to their movement pattern to more closely follow the steady beat. At the end of each task, results are provided, and at the end of the session, all the results are uploaded and made available to your IM provider. Your provider can analyze the scores and will make modifications as needed to your individual evolving training program. The program changes are seamlessly added to the trainee's next session. The program also has a written message system for communication between the trainee and their IM provider. The latest version of IM comes with many features designed to engage children and teens. For example, in the sports background option, you have choices of golf, basketball, and soccer. We're about to go to the closing wrap-up of our introduction to interactive metronome. Just before we do, we'll take a couple of minutes to focus in on Adam's story as an example of the long-term impact of interactive metronome. Here's a clip of Adam's mum taken 4 years ago.
So we've known Sherry for a little over a year now, and initially Adam was diagnosed with a severe gross motor problem and sequencing problems, and we did some metronome with Sherry. His reading scores in school improved from like the first grade level to a third grade level in a period of 4 or 5 months. He was at grade level within the first month of school starting last year in third grade. He actually started reading at a 4th or 5th grade level, and even with a broken leg, his occupational therapy exams in school, which he's an RSP kid, is in special ed, came in and they were above average. As his leg healed and he was able to stand up after the broken leg, we started up on the metronome training again. And in April of this past year, Adam was tested in school for his triennial exams through special ed, through his IEP. And even with a broken leg and missing school and having 3 surgeries, Adam tested out of special ed. He tested up into the superior range on math and above average in English. And he tested advanced for STAR exams, and she wants to test him in the, to put him in the gifted program at school. So here I have this little boy a year and a half ago who could barely read at a 1st grade level. And now he's reading at grade level 5. You know, he's going into 4th grade. And I'm not worried about him anymore.
We'll now catch up with Adam's story 2 years later.
Adam, you had so many problems in school when you were younger. Can you tell me what it was like for you during these years?
I had no talent at all when I was little. I really had no self-control. I got mad at myself every time I couldn't do something, which happens a lot. I would claw out the ground every time. I would try hitting myself on the wall. In fact, I did that when I was little sometimes when I got mad. I would hit myself on the wall, press myself against the door for 5 minutes, or something like that. And just that. I kept doing that a lot. I couldn't listen.
How did that make you feel?
When I never knew about this until I started improving, and when I did realize it, I felt terrible for myself. I couldn't even read a book. I just looked at the pictures.
Did you have a lot of friends?
No, I only had about 2 friends.
Did you participate in any activities after school or on the weekends?
No, I only participated in nothing because I had easy homework at 1st and 2nd, 3rd grade, but it took me 4 hours to do that kind of thing, so I had no time during the weekends or anything to do anything, and we had no family time, or we had no time to do anything.
What did you do to fix all this?
I used the Interactive Metronome to reset my brain timing, and I clapped and tapped my toes 2,000 times, and that reset my brain timing.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel empowered, and it made me feel physically and mentally stronger.
What happened at school after you did the training on the Interactive Metronome?
I got to be in more programs after school. I, nowadays, am actually in chess club, karate, Boy Scouts, Hebrew, and clarinet, all 5. And I even have free time on the weekends, still. I have so many things to do over the week, and I love them. And I'm surprised how busy I am sometimes, but I like it. I'm really happy about it.
Why do you think this training was so important to your improvement?
Because if I didn't do it, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. My parents said that if I hadn't found the metronome, that I probably wouldn't really do very well in college, or I might not get a job, or not be able to leave the house. But now, my future is bright. I have any choice of getting any job I want, or anything.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
A medical doctor, neurologist.
Why do you enjoy helping people so much?
Because I don't want them to end up like I was when I was little.
And let's hear from Adam's mum again, 2 years after we first met her.
My son Adam has been up against some very tough odds in his short life already. He's a 1 in a 2 million kid that contracted Kawasaki disease twice. He's recovered from a coronary aneurysm from the disease. He suffered through years of learning disabilities and sensory integration issues. He's healed from a fractured femur and multiple surgeries. And now, he's corrected his brain timing using the Interactive Metronome product, and he excels in everything he does. He volunteers his time to help others. He receives high grades in school, and he does extremely well in math, science, language, and public speaking. He plays clarinet in honors band for the school district. He's on the chess club, and he's working on his brown belt in karate. He's learning to read and write another language, and he's about halfway to his Eagle in Boy Scouts. And he also serves as his little brother's den chief in Cub Scouts. He's self-assured and secure enough with himself to insist upon attending the college prep middle school next year. But even more than that, he's a well-rounded and a happy child, and he loves to help other people because he's been to the bottom and he's climbed his way back out again. He's the bravest person I've ever known. Thank you for letting me talk about my hero today.
So, let's briefly summarise what we've learnt from our introduction to Interactive Metronome. Interactive Metronome training strengthens neural network connectivity and recalibrates temporal processing. This is achieved because IM evokes desirable neuroplastic brain change. For most people, the changes are permanent. Interactive Metronome has been available in the US for over 15 years, and it's finally here in New Zealand. And now you know about it. If you or someone you care for is likely to benefit from IM, there is one last question to consider. How will you respond to what you now know?